What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to another episode of the session. I am your host, King, man. I thank y'all for coming back. If you do like what you see, go ahead and subscribe, man, and we going to get right into it. All right, so today, you saw the title. You know what time it is. We talking relationships. Now, I'm going to give you some little credentials just so you can understand where I come from and how I understand relationships. I have been in long lasting relationships, married 19 years, well, 16 years, been with my significant other for 19 years. It'll be 20 years coming up this February on Valentine's Day. Now, that being said, I've been a barber for almost 20 years. It'll be this year makes 17 years. So I've dealt with so many people. I've dealt with different attitudes. I've dealt with different personalities, cultures, all of that, right? As well as like I've been in athletics, man. I played basketball. I played football. I played bocce ball. I played mini golf, everything, every sport. I've been on so many teams. I understand that dynamic. So now, when I say all this, I want you to hear what I say, and then I want you to understand that I'm not just saying stuff to be saying stuff. Everything that I'm saying, man, has relevancy because I understand personalities and I can read people very well, but I also understand that you have to accommodate to people. And that is something that a lot of people do not do. And they're very prideful about it because they want you to accept them for who they are. So when I speak on relationships, I'm not one of those red pillars. I'm not one of those guys that are just trying to stroke the ego of women. None of that. I'm definitely in the middle. I'm an independent thinker. So you should probably just take what I say. And it might relate to you. It may or may not, but it might. So let's get into it. Again, like I said, man, welcome to the podcast. This is a NBA edition because I'm going to find a way to make certain NBA situations relevant to your real life. And how we're going to start off today, we're going to start off with Chris Paul because I think a lot of people in today's world are similar to a Chris Paul. And what do I mean by that? Listen, man. Chris Paul has been known. Let me give you some rundown on Chris Paul, who Chris Paul is. Chris Paul is a vet. Chris Paul has been in the league, I want to say, 19 years now? LeBron was drafted 03. I think he was drafted 2006. Part of a really good draft class. I'm talking about amazing. Been in the league a long time. Considered point god by a lot of people, right? And I'm not gonna say I'm not sold or I've never been sold on Chris Paul, but I'm just gonna be real. So 40 years old, averaging this last season 2 points, 1 rebound, 3 assists, on a 32.1 field goal percentage. Again, man, great career, no championships. Wake Forest, Winston-Salem State, like I said, 6-foot guard. And just for me, I'm going to be perfectly clear. I do feel bad for Chris Paul in this situation. Chris Paul was done dirty, right? He was done very dirty. But I also think his personality and a certain level of delusion played a part in what caused this problem. So let's break it down. Chris Paul plays for the Los Angeles Clippers. This is his second stint with the Clippers, right? He was also like arguably labeled one of the best Clippers players ever because of his first stint when it was DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin. You know, they had a great team. They had a great team around them. They were actually slated to supposedly, go to the finals and win, but they just never did. So in his losing franchise, he took them probably the farthest. Well, he was part of a team that took them the farthest. Let me correct myself. Now, with this being said, I'm telling you all this because it has to get to a point, right? There was no reason for what the Clippers did. So what was this? Today is Thursday. So I think it was Wednesday night. Yeah, Tuesday into Wednesday night, 3 o'clock in the morning. Chris Paul sends out a kind of cryptic tweet that, man, I just been sent home, right? And you know what? I'm not gonna even give you this whole story. I'm gonna let Run It Back on FanDuel TV give you the whole story. So let's just take a listen.
In the night, the Clippers announced that Chris Paul is no longer with the team. They're parting ways. He also posted a very sort of cryptic short post as well. In a statement, Lawrence Frank said, quote, "We are parting ways with Chris, and he is no longer on the team. We will work with him on the next step of his career." He also emphasized that no one is blaming Chris for the Clippers' struggles. Keep in mind, they're out there in Atlanta to play the Hawks later on today. Lou, I'm going to start with you. You're our guy.
All right. Before we get into Lou Williams, which I do
When it comes to all things Clippers, what the hell?
I do want to hear what he has to say, because this is very important. Because again, he's a player and he can relate. He can tell us something that other people can't tell us. But I have to interject and give my feedback to what we just heard. So let's be fair. Professional organization, they shouldn't have handled it that way. There's no reason 3 o'clock in the morning on a road trip that you dismiss a player and tell him that he can just go home. And the thing was, the reason why it kind of happened so late was I guess they were held up. They were held up in an airport or something like that. Like they were delayed. And who knows? You know, maybe he said something they didn't like. Maybe he tried to hold a team manager accountable, and they told him, "Man, F you, bro. Just go home. We tired of you." And this is where we are. So let's hear what Lou Williams has to say, because, like I said, man, I can't fathom being fired on a road trip after I've already told these people, bro, this is my last year. I'm retiring. I had a great run. Let me just do my, you know what I'm saying? Let me do my victory lap. Let me get my applause, whatever I'm gonna do, and it would be good. So let's just hear what Lou Williams has to say, because I can't fathom this happening.
Just happened, sir.
Yeah, just talking to a few different people over there and just trying to understand what transpired in the early morning hours of this team being in Atlanta. But from what I've gathered, that brought an end to this abruptly was there was a few scenarios, and which CP was holding people accountable from players to staff, from coaching staff up to the front office. And, from what I understand, there was a situation where he even addressed the team and apologized and said, "Look, my criticisms are coming from a good place. I want us to be a good team. I want us to get this thing right." And he was just holding guys accountable. Now, how some of that talk was taken or interpreted, that's up for the players and the coaching staff that was involved and how they felt about it. And then down the line, there was another scenario where he was critical of front office as well, and I think that was the one that broke the camel's back. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, when he had some criticisms for the front office as well. I think that's what brought this to a head in the early hours in Atlanta. Like I said, I'm in Atlanta. The Clippers are in Atlanta. It was about 3-something in the morning. For whatever reason, I was up, but I was up, and and that's what I was understood. But for a player who's gonna go down as a Hall of Famer, for somebody who's gonna possibly have the opportunity to be the first jersey retire in the Raptors over there at the Intuit Dome, and be the first to represent Lob City and be the first person to represent the Clippers in that manner. This is just a sour way to go out. It looks bad on the Clippers' part to do this in the late night hours. It looks bad for Chris Paul. It looks bad for all parties involved. And I'll let you guys get in there a little bit.
All right. So he kind of gave us really the gist of it, in my opinion. Like, both parties were kind of in the wrong, but this is where I come across with relationships. So now let's look at Chris Paul and let's look at the LA Clippers. Chris Paul is, in my mind, and we've seen this on both sides, right? Everybody has had an interaction, most likely, with somebody who's very critical of everything, or what they call themselves, like natural born leader, very assertive. I'm gonna tell you what I think, and that's gonna make us better because I know better, or what would be good for us. And everybody's not like that. Some people need you to know when to play your role and when to shut up. And some people aren't that way. Some people are diehard. Nah, nobody gonna tell me that I can't criticize. Nobody's gonna tell me, because I'm saying it out of love, not out of anger. But that's the thing about relationships. You have to be willing to sometimes just shut up. And I know it sounds bad, but my emphasis that I want people to take away from anything that I say, as far as when it comes to a relationship, right? In every relationship, every interaction with two people or groups of people, right? There's a gray area that occurs. And this gray area happens when one party either does something or says something that isn't agreed upon by everybody involved, but then that other party lets it go, where they know they should correct or stand up for whatever they think is right. Right? Case in point. So Chris Paul goes in and he says he wants to hold players accountable, leadership accountable, coaches accountable, right? But yet your performance is lackluster. You are on your way out and you have no real way of cultivating a relationship with the younger guys because you're not going to be here next year. So you're a lame duck point guard who's, past his prime, but you still want to say stuff. Like, that's the thing. We have to remember, in certain interactions with people, there's always going to be somebody who always got something to say. And I feel like a lot of people in general will just let that person live with the hopes that, life corrects them one day. I don't have to do it. Life will correct them. But that's the thing about a relationship. If you want to finish out a relationship that might be in turmoil because of something you do, you have to be strong-willed enough to change for the longevity of that relationship. And Chris Paul wasn't willing to do that. Chris Paul was willing to push them to the end because that's just how his personality is. And that's just how some things are. But we have to stop being afraid to end those relationships. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not saying that the Clippers were right in how they did it. They were right for what they did. You should have ended said relationship if you felt we're not winning with this guy because he's bringing the morale down. People in the locker room aren't fucking with him. Coaches don't even want to talk to him. Him and Ty Lue weren't even on speaking terms. That's fine. Send him home at home, though. Have that conversation with him, beforehand. Or put him in a predicament where he can't interact with the people that he's irritating. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Just sit him at the end of the bench. Don't send him home, but do something. There's always something that can be done where it can be done with respect for the other person, even if you don't like their behavior. Still show them some level of respect because it can always look bad on you. Same difference with men and women, where if you're a woman who's being left by a man, said man shouldn't just throw you to the streets and leave you out there to the dogs. There should be some level of care and reassurance that, all right, man, I'm gonna make sure you're fine while me and you are no longer together. But I think that's what the Clippers just bypassed. It was like, I don't give a fuck about none of that. Lawrence Frank just let him go. And that's why they're getting, the side eye today, which they deserve. But also we got to hold Chris Paul accountable because what was your point? What was your point? That team is not built to go a championship. Yeah, y'all got Kawhi. Yes, you have James Harden. Yes, you got Zubats. But y'all got a bunch of old, injury-prone people. Nobody on that team, or not Zubac, somebody, whatever, one of them other foreign centers who's got talent. Regardless of who you have, you don't have enough. You didn't have enough to beat OKC. You don't have enough to beat the Lakers. You don't have enough to do a lot. So I hear you, but sometimes you just need to shut up. And that's part of the relationships. I used to do my back in the day, man. I'm gonna be real. I used to be a fixer, and people who know me or probably known me for the last 2 years, that's how recent it was. I was a fixer. I was gonna make sure. Oh, you ain't doing this right. Okay, let me help you. Oh, you don't know how to do this. Let me teach you. Oh, this is a problem. Let me fix it. Until I realized some people don't want you to fix it. Some problems aren't meant to be fixed. Some problems are meant to end a situation. And if you feel like the leadership wasn't right and this and that, then just watch what happens. Let life handle it. Because life will handle it. Things will happen. If I know a killer, I don't have to coach this killer to stop killing. I just got to get away from him. Because eventually life will catch him. If I know somebody who's scamming, same difference. I don't have to coach you out of it. Now, if you asking me to do it, okay, I will. But if I don't need to, I don't need to. So that's where I think Chris Paul's situation, when I come to relationships, you don't have to be the fixer. You don't have to be the overbearing person because you care. Sometimes caring just means being there, not talking. Being there. Because sometimes people just want you to be there. They want your presence. And Chris Paul didn't just want to have a presence. He wanted to have some type of say-so. And sometimes you talk yourself out of a good thing. And that's what that was. He talked himself out of his farewell tour. All right. So my second example is Ja Morant and Klay Thompson. So Ja Morant and Klay Thompson, they got into it. And really, I don't really say that they got into it more than Ja Morant just really showed his butt. Like Ja Morant really thought that, and maybe it is because his career is on a downward slope. But he called he called Klay Thompson a bum. Matter of fact, you know what? Let me just show you the clip, man. Let me see if I can find a channel that won't try to flag me. Matter of fact, let's just go back to run it back. Let's see what they got for us. Because I'm so disappointed in Ja Morant behind this.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it.
Let's just be fair too. Ja Morant is a really good player for what he does. He's a good slasher. And like I said, if you don't know him, he's playing for Memphis. You probably don't know him because he's been off the court the last few years. Whether it's been for controversial reasons, or it's been injuries, or it's just been, he's just not good. Not as good as he was. But, he hasn't been living up to expectations because of his, off the court thing. And that's the biggest thing. When you are an NBA player, the best ability is availability. And he hasn't been available. But yeah, let's go back again to the Running Back show on FanDuel and see what they got to say, man, about this whole Ja Morant situation.
And we do have a little mini beef that took place over the weekend. This was fun. Grizzlies beat Dallas, and then there are some words between Ja Morant and Klay. Took a shot at Klay, saying to his teammate Cam Spencer, tell him who the best shooter in the house was. It wasn't Bro from Golden State. And so Klay had something to say about that afterwards. Here he is.
And then with Ja, he's a funny guy. He has a lot to say all the time, especially for a guy who rarely takes accountability. But you know what? That's for another day.
What did Ja have to say on this occasion?
Nothing of intelligent depth. It was really just his just running his mouth, and he's been running his mouth for a long time. And it's funny to run your mouth when you're on the bench. It's kind of the story of his career so far, just leaving us wanting more,
Ooh, that's a good line at the end, because it's like it's like, hey, you're awesome, but.
All right. So like I said, we are going to equate Ja Morant and Klay Thompson to relationships. And how am I going to do this, you ask? So let's look at Ja Morant. Ja Morant is like a bitter ex. He's a bitter soul, period, right? Not just even an ex. He's a bitter soul. Because let's be clear, this fight didn't start, with that interaction. This fight started back when Klay Thompson was on the Warriors, and them and Memphis had a run-in where Memphis almost put them out, and then they didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like it just didn't happen. So they tried to poise themselves as like the team to beat Golden State, and I think they might have did, but then they got put out at one point in time. But either way, that's what I think makes Ja Morant the perfect example of a bitter person. Now, in a relationship, there's always a bitter person. Not always, but you know what I'm saying. There can be a bitter person. Doesn't mean they have to be bitter towards you. You can be in a relationship with a person who's completely bitter towards their ex, an old job, an old acquaintance. We know these people. You always have a problem. You can be living the best life possible, but somebody, that one soul, just bothers you so much that you have to keep up with them or you have to point it out. That's a bitter soul. And in a relationship, that's bad because you, bitter soul, can never focus or prioritize another person because you'll always be blinded by your bitterness. And Klay Thompson in this situation, you know what Klay Thompson is? Klay Thompson is the type of person in relationships who they just do well. They do well with relationships. He's a good soul. And I think the reason why they're even trying to pick on him is because he was in a long-term relationship. Now, and just see it, just walk with me down this path. Ja Morant, you've been on Memphis pretty much your whole career, and you've always had a tumultuous relationship with your organization. Whether you were doing well on the court but doing bad stuff off the court, or you were doing well off the court trying to rehab, trying to do stuff, and then on the court your team was malfunctioning and just going crazy. You've never brought peace to your relationship. You've always brought turmoil. And people like to say that you do it just for the clout because that's not really how you grew up. And we can probably see that. You probably grew up in a dysfunctional relationship. That's why you're a dysfunctional professional. So now Klay Thompson was raised in a stable relationship. Mother, father working in the NBA, played in the NBA, still to this day is an announcer in the NBA. So he's seen what stability looks like. He's seen what it's like to do things the right way, even currently. And I'm not saying this is the reason for all this, but even currently, he has a relationship with Meg Thee Stallion that is flourishing. And you're taking two souls who, to me, hardworking, looking for some type of stability, and they're both kind of still young. So now they're kind of a decent match for the time. Not saying it will last forever. I hope it does. If it doesn't, whatever. They live, they have a good time. And I think Ja Morant sees this as an opportunity to try to further his, the fake personality. I'm going to be a false tough guy because I see you starting over at a new location. I see you going through something, and instead of me coming over and saying, yo, bro, I see you no longer with the Warriors. We had a good run back then, and you know what I'm saying? It was exciting. I will hope, when I get back on the court, we could do it again, blah, blah, blah. I know you're having a down period in your career, which I think everybody has gone through that. If you change jobs, you change lives, you change, significant others, there's going to be an adjustment period, and Klay's in that adjustment period. So for him to come up and call him a bum and say that, oh man, our guy's a better shooter, he was the better shooter on the floor than you. First of all, let's be clear. You don't sound intelligent because Klay Thompson is on record as top 5 shooters in the world. History. Top 5. And that's being generous because most people put him top 3. Ray Allen, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. That's just all I'm saying. That's all I'm going to say. So I think that's what it is. I think we have to really look at this. Now, like I said, all of this happens in the gray area. The gray area for this scenario is when Ja decided to get up, put his hand in his face, and do, blah, blah, blah. The gray area was most people should have just ostracized him immediately. Get your ass up out of here, bro. You just causing trouble, just to be causing trouble. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not on the floor for no good reason. Your team don't believe in you no more. The league doesn't have really anything that they want out of you. Like no team is just clamoring for you because you've lost a step and you stay injured, you stay hurt. So your jealousy was showing, and we should let this be known that your jealousy, your envy is not appreciated. And if you don't like that this guy is doing his thing, living his life, then don't come to the game. Don't do nothing, because all you're doing is causing trouble. First of all, your organization don't want you. You don't want your organization. So you causing trouble on the sideline ain't doing nobody any favors. You're not boosting morale because you're not going out here scoring. You're just a cancer. But most bitter souls are cancers because they're leeches. They want to take. They don't want to give. They give what they want to, and they expect you to appreciate what they're giving, even though that's what they're supposed to be doing. You signed up to give your athleticism, your explosiveness. I don't have to appreciate it because that's what you're supposed to do. You have a role, and you're just not playing your role. But this is the same thing that happens in relationships every day with bitter souls. You'll be more focused on your ex-girlfriend, your ex-boyfriend, your boss, your friend at work, your work husband, your mama, your daddy, your cousin, your car, your mechanic, everybody else. You'll be more focused on everybody else and bringing pain and misery to them than the actual person that you're supposed to be performing for. So that's how we have to look at this. We have to look at this in a sense of reading the person for what they are and what they're contributing, and then acting accordingly. Don't get caught in the gray zone and just say, man, whatever. Dude just tripping again. No. Get him. Get him up out of here. Get him up. Stand on y'all words and get him up out of here. Because that, to me, is the only way that you will ever dodge those bullets, is by standing on your truth. If you're not here to help, you got to go. I can't carry you, especially if your focus is on somebody else or something else that is not here. Yes, I know we're talking about basketball and business, but is that not the difference in life? Because we know people that held on to people too long, and then it burns them in the end. No different than coaches and players that get held on too long, and then they burn you in the end. You get nothing for them. So that's my lesson. My lesson is, in relationships, don't linger in the gray area. Don't allow a person to make a fool of you and then for you to be okay with it and just live with it. That's not how it works, man. You can't do it. You shouldn't do it, because it's only going to hurt you in the long run. So yeah, man, I think I did it. I think I was able to eloquently elaborate on how relationships equate to these situations in the NBA, and how you yourself, if you want to have a long-lasting relationship, to stay out of the gray area and keep it pretty cut and dry. Keep it black and white. You know what I mean? Keep it black and white, because that's how you keep a healthy relationship, is by being honest and standing on principles. Klay Thompson stood on principles. You saw him afterward. He didn't go at him and say, I ain't gonna say, no, I just handle it on the court. No, Brad, dude is an idiot. He's an idiot, and he's unavailable. So I don't even know why we talking about him. And if you keep honesty, what can he rebuttal with? Because you haven't heard John say nothing. He has nothing to say, because you are on the sideline. You can't call a person a bum when you're the bum. That's like a homeless person seeing you get out of a nice car and calling you a bum because you don't have a Lamborghini. You fucking dumb? I'm driving. You're not. I'm in Jersey. You're in plain clothes. You're in literally street clothes talking to me about being a bum on the basketball court while holding the ball. Get the fuck out of here. So, all right, man. I'm gonna keep my I'm gonna keep this session short because I gotta wrap it up. I got another meeting, but I love it, man. I love it, and I hope Chris Paul does well. I hope he I don't know, because they fired you, bro. I don't know if you're gonna get signed to another team to do your farewell tour. Like maybe New Orleans will do it. Maybe the Rockets will do it. I don't know. Some of his old former team, maybe they'll put his jersey up in the Raptors, because they do call you the point guard, bro. And it's kind of messed up that, your career didn't go the way you wanted to go, and right now you're at the end and they're just treating you so rough. But at the same time, man, you treated people rough, so you got to live with what you've been doing. And Ja, bro, I don't really care about you. I don't really care at all, bro. You could retire. You can go to G League. You can do whatever you want to do, bro. You could retire, be a drug dealer, because that's what you want. So that's what I perceive. I give him 3 more years. He'll be out the league. He'll be arrested. You'll see him on TV. Mark my words. Clip it. Dude is going to jail because he wants to. He wants to. It's okay. I tell kids that all the time. When I see kids who just want to be thugs, you have no reason to be a thug. Your mama and your daddy work jobs, or they're in church, and you out here trying to be a gangbanger. Guess what, bro? You going to jail. And I stand on it. Ja Morant will be there. Give it 5 to 10 years. You'll see him in the news. And Clay, Hall of Famer, bro. Hall of Famer. All right, y'all, man, but I'm going to wrap it up. Until next time, man, I love y'all, man. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.